Good morning. I am giving a presentation on narcotic e-scripting. A particular article I read was about an e-scripting law that's getting ready to go live in New York State. So essentially this article begins with describing the new law that's going active in New York here at the end of March. At the end of March, the state of New York is enacting a law governing all e-scripts, narcotics included, which will go into effect. The law will require e-prescription for all prescriptions, mostly narcotics. New York State has a big opioid issue. One of the reasons they enacted this law at the legislative level was hopefully to decrease on therapeutic duplications, decrease the amount of opioids in the public, and decrease on the amount of illegal prescriptions for narcotics. Law will affect both pharmacies and prescribers of medication. Minnesota was the first state to enact such a pharmaceutical law, and e-scripting has been rising throughout the country. There is a little bit of resistance to the incoming ruling. Part of that is on the prescribers level. Part of that is on the legislative level. I felt that this article addressed a lot of requirements and needs as far as scanning the environment paper goes. It addressed healthcare, public policy, and it was a patient safety issue. If you think about it, the process of e-prescribing affects all caregivers involved in the process of drug therapy for patients. It's a policy that requires a number of bodies, different organizations to fulfill, such as the DEA, legislation, and the individual professions, pharmacy and doctors or prescribers. And I think on a patient safety level, the requirement of e-scripts, whether narcotic or not, provides an additional layer of patient safety with a focus on overscripting, duplicate prescriptions, and duplicate therapies. The government, as far as where this law is being enacted, it's at a state government level. Their legislators pushed it through. The U.S. government itself set up the framework for e-prescribing, but it seems that the decision to participate is a state-by-state choice. Minnesota, the legislature was the first state to require all the scripts in e-form. New York, again, has a heavy burden of opioid and drug abusers, felt that this law addressed their need, a very public need. We can address it as far as the state-by-state level. You have 3/4 of the nation's pharmacies are prepared for e-scripting, while only 2% of the nation prescribers are. Policy affects the DEA, the pharmacies, prescribers, and officials overseeing drug dispensing. Particularly in this article of the state of New York, nationwide, you could look at us on a bigger level as well. Nationwide, this second state enacted law really places a spotlight on our nation's doctors and pharmacies. The policy affects the legislators who were able to push this bill through the New York State lawmakers. It affects the doctors who have to be required to purchase more equipment or purchase new systems in order to do e-scripting. And pharmacies had to appropriate their own funding to meet the law's requirements. Now, the author, I do believe, had some bias. The title alone really depicts her bias. E-scripting is a national movement that's being installed illegitimately by doctors. The author does discuss the new law in New York State, and then she moves on to more of a nationwide discussion on e-prescribing in general. The author, Emma McCourt, does support the resistance to e-scripting with some reasoning. She talks about the incurred cost, prescriptions that are needed for opioids that are needed now. E-scripting is a new technology with multiple sources of breakdown and glitches, just like when the internet started or when we all got cell phones, and that not all e-scripting systems will communicate with each other. My personal view, I feel that e-prescribing is the way of the future. I think it's important enough public safety issue that it needs to be enabled by the government, by a nationwide law, uh, irregardless of the cost to the prescribers. I feel like with all new technologies, there's going to be some glitches, there's going to be some issues. Not everything's going to communicate with each other, but we deal with new technologies and hiccups and technological issues all the time. This should be no different, especially if we're looking at patient safety as a good reason to do this, and a reduction in opioid abuse and dependence. Pharmacies and pharmacists are already on board with this new trend. Especially, this article cites 3/4 of the pharmacies across the U.S. are set up for e-scripts, and vice versa. I think physicians are going to continue to drag their heels until an authoritative body comes and tells them they need to make a change in their practice. And I feel it's important that they need to do this, just as we did with electronic patient records. I feel that this is something that doctors and prescribers need to get on board with in the name of patient safety, good public policy for all of us who use medications. Thank you for your time.